It was a serene morning on the Atlantic Ocean when I set out for a day of fishing. As a lifelong fisherman, I knew these waters well and anticipated a productive and peaceful day. The sky was clear, the sea calm, promising an ideal day for fishing. My name is Jack, and this is the story of an ordinary day that turned into an extraordinary adventure. I woke up before dawn, as usual, the first light of the sun just beginning to peek over the horizon. The air was crisp and cool, carrying the salty tang of the ocean that I had come to love over the years. I packed my gear, checked my boat, and made sure everything was in order. My boat, a sturdy little vessel named the Mariner, had been my companion on countless fishing trips. It was reliable, and I trusted it with my life. As I pushed off from the dock, the gentle lapping of the waves against the hull was a comforting sound. I navigated out of the harbor, the familiar landmarks of the coastline gradually fading into the distance. The water was a smooth expanse, reflecting the pastel colors of the dawn sky. I felt a sense of peace wash over me, the kind that only comes from being out on the open sea. I reached my usual fishing spot, a place where the fish were plentiful and the waters relatively calm. Dropping anchor, I prepared my lines and bait, settling into the rhythm of the day. The sun rose higher, casting a golden glow over the water. Seagulls called out overhead, and the occasional splash of a fish breaking the surface added to the symphony of the sea. Hours passed in a tranquil blur. I caught a few fish, enough to make the trip worthwhile, but nothing out of the ordinary. It was shaping up to be just another day on the ocean, the kind that I had experienced countless times before. I took a break, sipping from my thermos of coffee and enjoying the solitude. There was something profoundly satisfying about these moments, alone with my thoughts and the vast expanse of the ocean around me. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, I decided to try my luck in a different spot. I pulled up the anchor and started the engine, navigating to a new location a bit further out. The water here was deeper, and I hoped it might yield a bigger catch. I cast my lines again, settling in for another round of waiting. The hours continued to slip by, the sun now high overhead. I was lost in the meditative routine of fishing, my mind wandering to memories of past trips and the simple joys of life at sea. It was during one of these moments of quiet reflection that I noticed something unusual. At first, it was just a subtle shift in the water, a ripple that seemed out of place. I dismissed it, thinking it might be a school of fish or perhaps a dolphin passing by. But then, the ripples grew more pronounced, and I felt a strange tension in the air. I stood up, peering over the side of the boat, trying to get a better look. "What's going on?" I muttered to myself, my curiosity piqued. The water beneath the boat seemed to darken, as if something massive was moving just below the surface. My heart began to race, a mix of excitement and apprehension. I had seen many things in my years as a fisherman, but this felt different. There was an energy to it, a sense of something powerful and unknown. I grabbed my binoculars, scanning the water for any signs of what might be causing the disturbance. The sea was calm, but I could feel the undercurrents of something big moving. I thought about calling it a day and heading back to shore, but my curiosity got the better of me. I decided to stay a little longer, to see if I could figure out what was happening. As I watched, the water began to churn more violently, and I saw a flash of something large and dark beneath the surface. It was too big to be a fish, and the way it moved was unlike anything I had ever seen. My mind raced with possibilities, each more fantastic than the last. Could it be a whale? I wondered aloud, though I knew the movement wasn't quite right for that. The tension in the air grew thicker, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. Whatever it was getting closer. I braced myself, gripping the sides of the boat, my eyes fixed on the water. The sense of foreboding was palpable, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was about to witness something extraordinary. Just as I was about to turn the boat around and head back to shore, the water exploded in a cascade of spray and foam. I staggered back, my heart pounding in my chest, as a massive shape began to emerge from the depths. The sight of it took my breath away, and I realized that this was no ordinary day on the ocean. After several hours of uneventful fishing, I noticed something unusual in the water. A swift and powerful movement beneath the surface caught my attention. At first, I thought it might be a school of large fish, but soon I realized it was something much bigger and more mysterious. The sun was high in the sky, casting its brilliant light on the calm ocean. I had moved to a new spot, hoping for a better catch, and was patiently waiting for a bite. The gentle rocking of the boat and the rhythmic sound of the waves had lulled me into a state of peaceful concentration. But that peace was about to be shattered. I was reeling in my line, preparing to cast it again, when I saw the first ripple. It was subtle, a small disturbance on the otherwise smooth surface of the water. I paused, my eyes narrowing as I tried to make sense of it. Ripples weren't uncommon, but something about this one felt different. It was almost deliberate. "That's odd," I muttered to myself, leaning over the side of the boat for a better look. The ripple grew into a series of waves, spreading out in a pattern that suggested something large moving beneath the surface. My pulse quickened as I scanned the water, trying to catch a glimpse of whatever was causing the disturbance. The water was dark and opaque, hiding whatever lay beneath. I grabbed my binoculars, hoping they might help me see more clearly. As I focused on the area where the ripples had started, I noticed a shadow moving swiftly and fluidly. It was huge, much larger than any fish I had ever encountered. My mind raced with possibilities, each more incredible than the last. Maybe it's a whale, I thought, though the movement didn't quite match. I kept watching, my curiosity mixed with a growing sense of unease. The shadow moved closer, and I could see it more clearly now. It was long and sinuous, with a fluid grace that was both mesmerizing and terrifying. The water around it seemed to shimmer and pulse, as if responding to its presence. "Whatever it is, it's big," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the sound of the waves. I considered turning the boat around and heading back to shore. After all, it wasn't uncommon for fishermen to encounter large sea creatures, and it was usually best to give them a wide berth. But something held me back. A part of me wanted to see what it was, to understand the mystery that was unfolding before my eyes. As I watched, the shadow disappeared for a moment, only to reappear even closer to the boat. The water churned violently, and I felt a surge of adrenaline. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized that whatever was down there, it was heading straight for me. I tightened my grip on the side of the boat, ready to react to whatever might happen next. The sense of foreboding was almost palpable, a heavy weight in the air. I could feel the tension building, like the calm before a storm. Suddenly, the water erupted in a massive splash, sending spray and foam into the air. I staggered back, my heart racing, as a huge shape began to rise from the depths. It was unlike anything I had ever seen, a creature of immense size and power. The boat rocked violently, and I struggled to maintain my balance. The creature's sheer size was overwhelming, and I felt a sense of awe and terror. It moved with a fluid grace, its body undulating as it breached the surface. The scales glistened in the sunlight, reflecting a spectrum of colors that seemed almost otherworldly. I stood frozen, unable to tear my eyes away from the spectacle. The creature's head emerged, revealing eyes that were both intelligent and ancient. It regarded me with a gaze that seemed to pierce my very soul, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. "What in the world are you?" I breathed, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and wonder. The creature didn't respond, of course, but its presence was almost sentient. I could feel its power, its majesty, and a strange sense of purpose. It was as if it had emerged from the depths to deliver a message, to make its presence known. The water around the boat continued to churn, and I realized that I was in the midst of something extraordinary. This was no ordinary sea creature. It was something far more significant. I felt a deep connection to the ocean, a sense of being part of a larger, more mysterious world. As the creature began to descend back into the depths, the water calmed once more. The ripples faded, and the sea returned to its serene state. I stood there, breathless and in awe, trying to process what I had just witnessed. My mind raced with questions. What was that creature? Why had it appeared to me? And what did it mean for my life as a fisherman? I knew that I had just experienced something that would change me forever. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. The ocean was full of mysteries, and I had just encountered one of its greatest. I didn't have all the answers, but I knew that this was only the beginning of an incredible journey. Suddenly, an enormous creature emerged from the water, shaking my small boat with incredible force. It was a sea creature unlike any I had ever seen before, with a colossal size and a terrifying appearance. My heart pounded as I struggled to maintain my balance and prevent the boat from capsizing. The moment the creature broke the surface, time seemed to slow down. The water cascaded off its massive form, shimmering in the sunlight like 1,000 diamonds. The sheer size of the beast was overwhelming, and I could barely comprehend what I was seeing. It was easily 3 times the length of my boat, with a body that seemed to defy the natural order of things. "Jesus Christ!" I exclaimed, gripping the sides of the boat with white-knuckled intensity. The creature's head was the first to fully emerge, revealing a visage that was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Its eyes were large and dark, reflecting a depth of intelligence that sent a shiver down my spine. The scales covering its body were iridescent, shifting colors as the sunlight hit them. It had a long, sinuous neck and a mouth filled with sharp, glistening teeth. I stood frozen, my mind racing to make sense of what I was witnessing. This was no ordinary sea creature. It was something out of legend, a being that seemed to have come from the depths of my wildest imagination. The boat rocked violently as the creature's powerful movements created waves that threatened to swamp me. "Stay calm, Jack," I muttered to myself, trying to steady my breathing. "Just stay calm." The creature let out a low, rumbling sound that resonated through the water and into my bones. It wasn't a roar or a growl, but something deeper, almost like a call. The sound seemed to vibrate through the air, filling the space around me with an eerie, otherworldly presence. As I watched, the creature continued to rise, revealing more of its massive body. It had a long, serpentine tail that whipped through the water with incredible strength. The scales along its back stood up like the ridges of a mountain range, each one glinting in the sunlight. It was a sight both beautiful and terrifying, a reminder of the raw power of nature. The boat lurched again, and I nearly lost my footing. I grabbed onto the railing, my eyes never leaving the creature. It moved with a fluid grace, its body undulating as it swam around the boat. The water churned and frothed, creating a maelstrom that made it difficult to stay upright. Okay, I said aloud, trying to keep my wits about me. "What do I do now?" The creature seemed to be studying me, its dark eyes fixed on my every move. There was an intelligence in its gaze that was unsettling, as if it understood far more than I could ever imagine. I felt a strange connection to it, a sense that we were both part of something much larger than ourselves. "Easy there," I said softly, holding out my hand as if to calm it. "I'm not here to hurt you." To my surprise, the creature seemed to respond. It paused in its movements, the water calming slightly around it. I could see the muscles under its scales tensing and relaxing, as if it was trying to decide what to do next. The air was thick with tension, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. "Just stay calm," I repeated, more to myself than to the creature. For a moment, it felt like we were locked in a silent conversation, each of us trying to understand the other. The creature's eyes bore into mine, and I felt a strange sense of recognition, as if we had met before in some distant, forgotten past. Then, with a sudden, powerful movement, the creature dove back into the water. The force of its descent created a massive wave that rocked the boat violently, nearly throwing me overboard. I clung to the railing, my heart racing as I watched the creature disappear into the depths. The water churned and frothed for a few moments longer, then gradually calmed. I stood there, breathless and in shock, trying to process what had just happened. The boat bobbed gently on the now quiet sea, the only sound the distant cries of seagulls. "What the hell was that?" I whispered, my voice trembling. I sank to my knees, the adrenaline still coursing through my veins. My mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. I had just encountered something extraordinary, something that defied explanation. The creature's presence had been both terrifying and awe-inspiring, a reminder of the mysteries that still lurk in the depths of the ocean. As I sat there, Trying to regain my composure, I couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. The ocean had always been a place of mystery and adventure, but this encounter had taken it to a whole new level. I knew that I would never forget what I had seen, and that it would change the way I viewed the sea forever. Slowly, I got to my feet and took a deep breath. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the water. I knew I needed to head back to shore, but part of me wanted to stay, to see if the creature would return. But I also knew that I had been given a rare and precious glimpse into a world few ever see. With a final look at the now calm water, I started the engine and began the journey back to shore. My mind was still reeling from the encounter, and I knew it would take time to fully process what had happened. But one thing was certain. I had witnessed something truly extraordinary, and my life as a fisherman would never be the same. The creature began to circle my boat, hitting it with its tail and creating waves that threatened to capsize it. I held on with all my strength, trying to maintain control while searching for a way to escape from the monstrous sea creature. With each passing minute, the situation grew more desperate. The boat rocked violently, and I could hear the wood creaking under the strain. The waves created by the creature's powerful tail were relentless, crashing against the sides of the boat and sending sprays of seawater over the deck. I struggled to keep my footing, my heart pounding in my chest as I fought to stay upright. "Hold together, mariner," I muttered, gripping the railing tightly. "Just hold together." The creature's eyes glinted in the sunlight as it circled, its movements swift and purposeful. It was as if it was testing me, seeing how I would react under pressure. Each time it struck the boat, I felt a surge of panic, but I forced myself to stay calm and think clearly. I needed to find a way to get out of this situation. The boat was equipped with a small outboard motor, but starting it in these conditions would be risky. The waves were too unpredictable, and the creature was too close. I had to come up with a plan, and quickly. "Think, Jack, think," I said to myself, scanning the deck for anything that might help. My eyes fell on the flare gun I kept in a waterproof container under the seat. It was meant for emergencies, and this certainly qualified. If I could distract the creature long enough to start the motor, I might have a chance to escape. I carefully made my way to the container, my movements slow and deliberate to avoid losing my balance. The boat lurched again, and I nearly fell, but I managed to grab the flare gun and a couple of flares. My hands were shaking as I loaded the first flare, my mind racing with the possibilities. "Okay, here goes nothing," I said, taking aim at the water near the creature. I pulled the trigger, and the flare shot out with a loud pop, arcing through the air before hitting the water and igniting in a burst of bright red light. The creature reacted immediately, its head snapping towards the flare. It paused in its circling, seemingly mesmerized by the sudden burst of light and color. "Now's my chance," I thought, scrambling to the motor. I yanked on the starter cord, praying that it would catch on the first try. The motor sputtered to life, and I felt a surge of hope. I quickly adjusted the throttle, steering the boat away from the creature and the flare. The waves were still rough, but I could feel the boat gaining speed, cutting through the water with determination. I glanced back over my shoulder, my heart still racing. The creature was still focused on the flare, its attention diverted just long enough for me to make my escape. I pushed the motor to its limit, the boat bouncing over the waves as I put as much distance between us as possible. Come on," I urged, willing the boat to go faster. The seconds felt like hours as I navigated through the choppy water, my eyes darting between the horizon and the creature behind me. The flare was starting to fizzle out, and I knew it was only a matter of time before the creature turned its attention back to me. As the flare died, the creature let out a low, rumbling sound that sent a shiver down my spine. It began to move again, its powerful tail slicing through the water with ease. I could see it gaining on me, its massive form cutting through the waves like a knife. "Not yet," I muttered, pushing the throttle to its maximum. Just a little further. The boat surged forward, the engine roaring as it strained against the waves. I could see the coastline in the distance, a beacon of safety and hope. If I could just reach it, I might have a chance. The creature was closing in, its speed and power unmatched. I could feel the boat shuddering with each wave, the strain of the engine pushing it to its limits. My hands were slick with sweat, my muscles aching from the effort of holding on. Almost there, I whispered, my eyes fixed on the shore. The creature let out another rumbling call, and I could feel its presence looming behind me. The waves grew more intense, the boat rocking violently as I fought to keep it on course. I could see the shallow waters ahead, a sign that I was nearing the shore. With one final burst of speed, the boat surged forward, the shallow waters slowing the creature's advance. I could see the sandy beach now, just a few hundred yards away. The creature let out a frustrated roar, its movements becoming more erratic as it struggled to navigate the shallows. Come on, I urged, my heart pounding in my chest. The boat hit the sand with a jolt, and I stumbled forward, nearly falling overboard. I scrambled to my feet, my eyes scanning the shore for any sign of help. There was no one in sight, but I knew I couldn't stay on the boat. The creature was still too close, and I needed to get to solid ground. I jumped over the side, my feet sinking into the wet sand as I ran towards the shore. The creature let out a final, furious roar, but it was too late. I had made it to safety. The boat beached and the creature unable to follow. I collapsed onto the sand, my chest heaving with exertion. The adrenaline was still coursing through my veins, my mind racing with the events of the past few minutes. I had survived, but just barely. The encounter had been a stark reminder of the power and unpredictability of the ocean. As I lay there, catching my breath, I couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and respect for the creature. It was a force of nature, a reminder of the mysteries that still lurk in the depths of the sea. I knew that I would never forget this day, and that it would change the way I viewed the ocean forever. In the midst of the chaos, I noticed that the creature wasn't acting aggressively out of mere instinct. It seemed to be protecting something. Carefully, I approached the edge of the boat and saw what appeared to be a young creature tangled in a fishing net. The enormous creature was a mother, desperate to save her child. The realization hit me like a bolt of lightning. This wasn't just a random attack. It was a mother's desperate attempt to protect her offspring. My fear was immediately replaced by a sense of urgency and empathy. I knew I had to help. I carefully made my way to the side of the boat, peering over the edge to get a better look. The young creature was struggling, its small body caught in the thick, nylon netting. It was thrashing about, trying to free itself. But the more it struggled, the more entangled it became. The mother circled protectively, her eyes never leaving her child. "Hang on, little guy," I muttered, my heart aching at the sight. I grabbed my knife from the tackle box, my hands shaking with a mix of adrenaline and determination. The mother creature watched me intently, her massive form creating waves that rocked the boat. I knew I had to move carefully and quickly. Any sudden movements could provoke her, and I didn't want to risk her attacking again. "Easy, easy," I whispered, trying to keep my voice calm and soothing. I leaned over the side of the boat, reaching out with the knife to cut the net. The young creature's eyes met mine, and I saw a mixture of fear and hope in them. It was as if it understood that I was trying to help. I took a deep breath, focusing on the task at hand. The net was tough, but I managed to slice through the first few strands. The young creature stopped struggling for a moment, as if sensing that help was on the way. I continued cutting, working as quickly and carefully as I could. The mother creature remained close, her eyes never leaving me. "Almost there," I said softly, my fingers deftly working the knife through the tangled netting. Finally, with one last cut, the net gave way. The young creature wriggled free, its movements tentative at first, then more confident as it realized it was no longer trapped. It let out a small, plaintive cry, and the mother responded with a deep, resonant call that echoed across the water. The young creature swam towards its mother, their reunion a moment of pure, raw emotion. The mother nuzzled her child, their bodies moving in a graceful, almost dance-like motion. I watched, my heart swelling with a mixture of relief and awe. It was a scene of such beauty and tenderness that it took my breath away. "You're safe now," I whispered, a smile spreading across my face. The mother turned her gaze towards me, and for a moment our eyes locked. There was a depth of gratitude and understanding in her eyes that transcended species. It was as if she was thanking me, acknowledging the risk I had taken to help her child. I felt a connection, a bond forged in the heat of a shared crisis. With a final, lingering look, the mother and her child began to swim away. Their movements were fluid and graceful, a testament to the strength and resilience of life in the ocean. I watched them go, my heart full of emotions I could barely comprehend. As they disappeared into the depths, the water around the boat began to calm. The waves subsided, and the sea returned to its serene state. I sat down, my legs trembling from the adrenaline and exertion. The enormity of what had just happened began to sink in. I had witnessed something extraordinary, something that few people ever get to see. It was a reminder of the interconnectedness of all life, and the lengths to which a mother will go to protect her child. It was a humbling, awe-inspiring experience that left me feeling both small and significant at the same time. I took a deep breath, the salty air filling my lungs. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm, golden glow over the water. I knew I needed to head back to shore, but I took a moment to reflect on the day's events. It had been a day of fear, struggle, and ultimately triumph. As I started the engine and began the journey back, my mind replayed the encounter over and over. The image of the mother and her child, swimming away together, was etched into my memory. It was a sight that would stay with me for the rest of my life. The boat cut through the water smoothly, the engine humming steadily. I felt a sense of peace and fulfillment, knowing that I had made a difference, however small, in the lives of those creatures. It was a reminder of the power of compassion and the impact of even the smallest acts of kindness. As the shoreline came into view, I knew that this experience had changed me. It had opened my eyes to the wonders and mysteries of the ocean and the incredible creatures that call it home. It had reminded me of the importance of empathy and the connections that bind us all together. I docked the boat and stepped onto the pier, the events of the day still fresh in my mind. The sun had dipped below the horizon, and the sky was painted with hues of pink and orange. I took one last look at the ocean, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and respect for the world beneath the waves. "Thank you," I whispered, as if the ocean itself could hear me. With a final nod, I turned and made my way home, my heart full of the day's memories and the lessons they had taught me. I knew that I would return to the sea, but I would do so with a renewed sense of wonder and a deeper appreciation for the life that thrives within its depths. Determined to help, I grabbed my knife and, with great effort, managed to free the young creature from the net. The mother, realizing my intentions, calmed down and stopped attacking the boat. With a final push, the young one was freed and swam quickly toward its mother. Both creatures submerged into the depths, disappearing from sight. The moment I decided to help, a surge of determination and adrenaline coursed through my veins. I knew this was a risky move, but I couldn't stand by and watch the young creature suffer. The net was tightly wound around its small body, and it struggled with every attempt to break free. The mother, sensing my intentions, seemed to hold back, her massive form hovering protectively nearby. "Hang in there, little one," I muttered under my breath, gripping my knife tightly. I leaned over the side of the boat, my heart pounding as I carefully approached the young creature. The net was a thick, tough nylon, the kind used by commercial fishermen. It would take some effort to cut through it, especially with the boat still rocking from the earlier commotion. I steadied myself, taking deep breaths to calm my nerves. The young creature's eyes met mine, and I saw a mix of fear and hope reflected in them. It was as if it understood that I was there to help. I began to carefully slice through the net, my hands shaking slightly from the adrenaline. The mother watched intently, her eyes never leaving us. I could feel her presence, a mix of tension and trust. "Easy now," I whispered, focusing on each precise cut. The net began to give way, and I could see the young creature starting to relax. It stopped struggling, allowing me to work more efficiently. The mother let out a low, resonant sound, a call of reassurance to her child. I continued cutting, my movements deliberate and careful. Finally, With one last slice, the net fell away. The young creature wriggled free, its movements tentative at first, then more confident as it realized it was no longer trapped. It let out a small, plaintive cry, and the mother responded with a deep, resonant call that echoed across the water. "You're free now," I said softly, a smile spreading across my face. The young creature swam towards its mother, their reunion a moment of pure, raw emotion. The mother nuzzled her child, their bodies moving in a graceful, almost dance-like motion. I watched, my heart swelling with a mixture of relief and awe. It was a scene of such beauty and tenderness that it took my breath away. The mother turned her gaze towards me, and for a moment, our eyes locked. There was a depth of gratitude and understanding in her eyes that transcended species. It was as if she was thanking me, acknowledging the risk I had taken to help her child. I felt a connection, a bond forged in the heat of a shared crisis. With a final, lingering look, the mother and her child began to swim away. Their movements were fluid and graceful, a testament to the strength and resilience of life in the ocean. I watched them go, my heart full of emotions I could barely comprehend. As they disappeared into the depths, the water around the boat began to calm. The waves subsided, and the sea returned to its serene state. I sat down, my legs trembling from the adrenaline and exertion. The enormity of what had just happened began to sink in. I had witnessed something extraordinary, something that few people ever get to see. It was a reminder of the interconnectedness of all life, and the lengths to which a mother will go to protect her child. It was a humbling, awe-inspiring experience that left me feeling both small and significant at the same time. I took a deep breath, the salty air filling my lungs. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm, golden glow over the water. I knew I needed to head back to shore, but I took a moment to reflect on the day's events. It had been a day of fear, struggle, and ultimately triumph. As I started the engine and began the journey back, my mind replayed the encounter over and over. The image of the mother and her child, swimming away together, was etched into my memory. It was a sight that would stay with me for the rest of my life. The boat cut through the water smoothly, the engine humming steadily. I felt a sense of peace and fulfillment, knowing that I had made a difference, however small, in the lives of those creatures. It was a reminder of the power of compassion and the impact of even the smallest acts of kindness. As the shoreline came into view, I knew that this experience had changed me. It had opened my eyes to the wonders and mysteries of the ocean and the incredible creatures that call it home. It had reminded me of the importance of empathy and the connections that bind us all together. I docked the boat and stepped onto the pier, the events of the day still fresh in my mind. The sun had dipped below the horizon, and the sky was painted with hues of pink and orange. I took one last look at the ocean, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and respect for the world beneath the waves. "Thank you," I whispered, as if the ocean itself could hear me. With a final nod, I turned and made my way home, my heart full of the day's memories and the lessons they had taught me. I knew that I would return to the sea, but I would do so with a renewed sense of wonder and a deeper appreciation for the life that thrives within its depths. With the danger past, I stayed in the boat, reflecting on what had just happened. I had witnessed an act of love and protection in the marine world, something that left me deeply moved. My life as a fisherman would never be the same, and every time I went out to the ocean, I would remember that incredible experience and the connection I had felt with those creatures. As I sat there, the boat gently rocking on the now calm waters, I couldn't help but replay the events of the day in my mind. The encounter with the mother and her young had been nothing short of extraordinary. It was a stark reminder of the profound connections that exist in nature, connections that we, as humans, often overlook or take for granted. The sun had set completely, and the sky was now a deep indigo, dotted with stars. The tranquility of the night contrasted sharply with the chaos and intensity of the earlier encounter. I felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that I had done something meaningful, something that had made a difference. "That was something else," I said aloud, my voice barely more than a whisper in the vastness of the ocean. I took a deep breath, inhaling the crisp, salty air. The ocean had always been a place of solace for me, a place where I could find peace and clarity. But now it felt different. It felt more alive, more connected. I realized that I had been given a rare glimpse into a world that few people ever see, and it had changed me. I started the engine and slowly made my way back to shore, the hum of the motor a comforting sound in the quiet night. The stars reflected on the surface of the water, creating a shimmering pathway that guided me home. As I navigated through the familiar waters, my mind was filled with thoughts of the mother and her young, and the incredible bond they shared. The journey back gave me time to reflect on my life as a fisherman. I had always loved the sea, but this experience had deepened that love in ways I couldn't have imagined. I thought about the countless hours I had spent on the water, the fish I had caught, and the simple joys of a life lived in harmony with nature. But now, I felt a new sense of responsibility, a desire to protect and preserve the ocean and its inhabitants. As the lights of the harbor came into view, I felt a sense of anticipation. I knew that I had a story to tell, a story that could inspire others to see the ocean in a new light. I docked the boat and stepped onto the pier, the events of the day still fresh in my mind. The harbor was quiet, the boats gently bobbing in the water, and the air filled with the familiar sounds of the night. I made my way home, my thoughts still consumed by the day's events. I knew that I needed to share what had happened, to let others know about the incredible encounter I had experienced. As I walked through the quiet streets, I felt a sense of purpose, a determination to make a difference. When I reached my house, I sat down at the kitchen table and began to write. The words flowed easily, my mind still vivid with the images of the mother and her young. I wrote about the fear and the struggle, the moment of connection, and the profound sense of awe I had felt. I wrote about the importance of empathy and the need to protect the ocean and its creatures. As I finished writing, I felt a sense of closure. The day's events had been intense and overwhelming, but now I felt a deep sense of peace. I knew that I had been given a gift, a rare and precious experience that had changed me forever. In the days that followed, I shared my story with friends and fellow fishermen. I spoke about the encounter with the mother and her young, and the incredible bond they shared. I talked about the need to protect the ocean and its inhabitants, and the importance of empathy and compassion. The response was overwhelming. People were moved by the story, and many expressed a newfound appreciation for the ocean and its creatures. I realized that my experience had the power to inspire others, to open their eyes to the beauty and wonder of the natural world. As the weeks and months passed, I continued to fish, but with a renewed sense of purpose. I took greater care to protect the environment, avoiding areas where I knew marine life might be at risk. I became more involved in conservation efforts, working with local organizations to promote sustainable fishing practices and protect marine habitats. Every time I went out to sea, I carried the memory of that incredible encounter with me. It was a constant reminder of the interconnectedness of all life and the importance of protecting the ocean and its inhabitants. I knew that I had been given a rare and precious gift, and I was determined to honor it. One evening, as I sat on the deck of my boat, watching the sun set over the horizon, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. The ocean had always been a place of solace and peace for me, but now, it was also a place of connection and purpose. I knew that I would continue to fish, but I would do so with a renewed sense of responsibility and a deeper appreciation for the life that thrived beneath the waves. As the stars began to appear in the night sky, I thought about the mother and her young, and the incredible bond they shared. I knew that I would never forget that day, and that it would continue to inspire me for the rest of my life. I smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace and fulfillment, knowing that I was part of something much larger than myself.